Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 1 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Today, I'm excited to welcome the Queen of Snark and Paranormal Romantic Comedy and Southern Charm, author Molly Harper. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I know. We've been connected and I've loved your books for years, and our schedules always, were like two shifts in the night. And, when we finally got something, you decided to move.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I still love you, but I am so excited to be chatting with you today and have the audience also fall in love with you the way I have many moons ago. So we're going to start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been writing, and how you got started.
Well, if you would ask my mom, who you've met,
yes.
I have always been a writer, or at least a storyteller. I would sit in my room and I would have these just really crazy adventures with my Barbies were having these Scooby-Doo mysteries where they were like chasing after monsters and unveiling the secret bad guy the whole time. And she just kind of knew that I was going to grow up and be some sort of writer. I taught myself how to type on her old college typewriter, and just told really bad stories that got better over time. But when I got to college, I wasn't really sure about how to have a career as a writer. So I majored in journalism and became a newspaper reporter. And I worked for my hometown paper and married my high school sweetheart. And we both had crazy jobs. And one of us had to kind of become a 9-to-5 grown-up. So I took a job as a church secretary. And, I was used to writing it every day, and I still had all that writing energy when I would, come home at a normal human time of the night. And so I decided I was going to finally write a book. And I wrote my first book, which was Nice Girls Don't Have Fangs. And it came out in 2009. And it was the story of a local librarian in a small Kentucky town who is mistaken for a deer and shot and turned into a passing vampire to save her life. And I think almost 50 books later, I'm still at it. Paranormal romance, contemporary romance, vampires, werewolves, ghosts,
Dragons,
witches, dragon shifters. I just wrote my first proper murder mystery that I'm really excited about. And it's been a really wonderful, interesting ride. And I hope that readers stick with me for what comes next.
Yeah. Well, I have, like I said, I've been a huge fan, and, from blogging to the reviewing and fast forward with the whole thing with social media, I've taken to love on authors a little bit more publicly and vocally, with videos of myself, because I've done that with pretty graphics, but you know how it is with socials, they want to see your face.
I remember that.
Which I'm I know I don't like it either, but I do love your videos, which recently have been in reference to the new series. So again, folks, if she writes, her writing is just so, it's perfection for me. It's just one of those where you have a little bit of everything. You have the sassiness, you have the sarcasm, then you have the spiciness, and then the heroines are all fantastically smart and independent and don't need the hero. They allow the hero to be there, right? It's one of those fine, I'll let you help me slay the
nice
dragon.
He's there.
Yeah, it's okay. He's cute. And one of my favorites, it has always been two, actually. It's the Mystic Bayou series, because there's such a variety of paranormal creatures all living together in this town that is trying to keep up with the times and save itself, but but there's also the local small town gossip happening too, and dealing with all that. And the other one is the Southern Eclectic series. Oh my God. That one is it's a contemporary. And just that first chapter in that first book where that wedding, because she's a wedding planner. And everything's going wrong.
The flamingos.
Yes. It's just so Molly. once you get to know her and her stuff, but also you see it happening in your head in front of you as you're reading or you're listening. Things just, anything, whether it's a dragon, hoarding the gold, or the flamingos falling and things like that. And now we have witches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have this new series, the Starfall Point series, and you've been doing a lot more videos on social media with this series, and I'm just loving it. I'm like, oh my god, I love your hat. It's one of the things.
It was always going to come down to accessories for me. So, because I had to have new headshots done for the first time since my first book came out.
Wow.
So,
okay.
I mean, after a certain amount of time, it becomes inappropriate to use the same photo. So I had to have new headshots done. And I was like, okay, well, I should have like a nice professional, normal clothes, shot taken, but I should have something witchy and like paranormal done because, I need that side to come across to readers too. And I'm like, what would make this better? A custom witch hat covered in butterflies in my favorite color. And there just happened to be an Etsy vendor that would do that for me. And then the next book came out, and that, I don't know if you've seen Big Witch Energy's cover, but it's the most brilliantly magenta cover in the business right now. And so I was like, you know what? Witch hat with pink butterflies. So I think I'm just going to buy a new witch hat every time I have a witch book come out. I think that's my inspiration.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. I agree. It's an accessory. It matches, and from a marketing perspective, totally on brand. But I've loved seeing your gorgeous face on socials with the hat, but also your kids kind of popping in there too with typical quick kid questions like, "What are you doing?"
My kids are constantly asking me what I'm doing. I am very paranoid about putting my kids' faces on social media.
No.
But their voices, that's fine.
That's fine.
And so my son, I've since I started writing middle of the night index card notes to myself, because I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and I'll have an idea that will fix my story or a question I need to ask myself. And so I'll leave them on the nightstand. The problem is sometimes, because I work in different rooms of the house, they travel with me and my family will find them in the house. And the first one, and the one that scared my husband the most, was "The Old Man Must Die." And it was about my first book. And it's like, my husband's like, "Are we okay? Everything all right? I've noticed you've been buying a lot of books on poisons on Amazon." But so ever since then, like, they just know if they find one of Mom's notes in the house, like, everything's probably fine. But they were kind of joking about how I should do a TikTok about the weird index cards they find around the house, and that Carter, or my son, became the main character of my TikTok account, and it's pretty funny. We just did one. I just posted one today, and it's mostly about the Moonshadow Cove series that I'm working on now. And all the questions that I've written myself in the middle of the night revolving around these fabulous sea witches that I'm now writing about, which has been really fun.
There's some insights. I don't think you've shared a lot of that one.
I have not.
Yeah. So. I'm so excited. I'm such a kid when it comes down to great stories, and yours never disappoints. Automatic buy. I mean, I've bought everything, even, like, now that you're because you shared about your thriller that you're writing, that it's going to be legit. Like, there's right.
It's a proper murder mystery,
right? Yeah, exactly. It's like a proper, and by legit, I mean there's not going to be a vampire popping out somewhere.
Oh no,
yeah,
no.
That's what I meant by that.
There's romantic elements to it, but it is focused on these dead bodies that this person. It's called A Proposal to Die For, and it's about a proposal planner that is stuck at a mountain luxury spa with her clients who are human nightmares, and she keeps finding dead bodies around the spa property, and how she goes about trying to figure out who is doing this. And it just goes back to my fascination with true crime and Dateline and Murder, She Wrote. It's sort of the culmination, really, of years of watching inappropriate true crime content.
Yeah. So. and while I love a good thriller, and that's something too that I've noticed about myself, I love thrillers and murder mysteries on my TV shows and stuff like that, but not in my book. I literally had that epiphany. I'm like, why is it that all my stuff that I'm watching on TV, Netflix, Amazon, all stuff is all out thrillers, and whodunit and stuff like that. But my books are lighthearted, or not into that. And I'm going, I think it's just a different way to intake the information.
Is. And it plays out differently in your head.
Yeah.
So
that is true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you're writing it, so I'm buying it. And
it's gonna be funny. It's a murder mystery, but it's still Molly Harper humor with 100% more murder, is the way I'm putting it.
Exactly. So. And that's perfect. And honestly, I think that you could write a cookbook or, a plant book. I don't have a green thumb and I'd still buy it. So, because it's you. And I know that the writing's fantastic.
Dead.
Yeah.
The end.
It would be a pretty cover though, and a very creative title. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have written this series, the Starfall Point series, and I love the titles. The first one is Witches Get Stuff Done. The second one is Big Witch Energy. And then the third one that's coming out, well, technically when this airs, it has been released. I still have not, it hasn't been in real time, not yet, but it is called Never Been Witched. And so I'm like, do you come up with these titles and where do you get them?
It is by committee. My agent, my editor, and myself will come up with a list of sometimes up to 12 different, potential titles. And we'll, I don't like this one, but this one, is stronger. Let's focus on this detail from this other one and what we like about it. And we just throw those around for ultimately probably 20 emails, until we finally found the one that clicks. And I've been this has been my process since my first book. I think the Nice Girls Don't Have Fangs was originally called Single Undead Female. So it's just part of, how I go about things. I know that my first title will not be the title that makes it to the cover, and that's okay. I've accepted this about myself.
And those covers too, they're fantastic. Are you part of that process too?
I help in that I describe the characters physically. I give actor or actress references. They resemble Tom Hardy. They always resemble Tom Hardy in my head. But what kind of clothes they wear, how they might wear their hair on a certain day. For if you're going hiking, you're not wearing a full updo. So that kind of thing, I'll help with that. I'll give mood references if there is a particularly important building, such as Shadow House in the Starfall Point series. I will give a description of that building, but then the art department runs with it. And for the most part, I've been thrilled with nearly every cover I've had. So
yeah, for the series has been spot on, and we talked about it a little bit prior to getting on air. For the second book, she curvy. I like that.
Yep.
I love that.
As a curvy girl, I feel it's important to represent that. So
same. I appreciate it when I'm like, hey, yeah, that's how it's supposed to fit. Yeah. And we get love too, damn it. So how would you describe this series to someone that has never read you or never read paranormal?
So it's witches living in a haunted house on an island in the lakes of Michigan with a bunch of haunted antiques, helping ghosts work through their problems.
Yeah, I live there. I would move there.
It's so fun in that I am constantly coming up with new objects that ghosts could be attached to and the silly reasons why. And it's not what you expect, because I think it's so funny that kids grew up in our area. 50 years ago was the 1930s when we were little, and now 50 years ago is the 70s. I know. And so, ghosts have to keep attaching themselves to more and more modern objects. And, there's a housewife that was very attached to her coasters because she wanted to protect her furniture, like things like that. So, I find that process to be fascinating in my own imagination. So
yeah, there's definitely going to be a ghost at one point in time attached to the MP3 player, and or that Apple Watch. You never know.
Yeah. Well, there's Natalie, who's attached to her dry erase board because she felt the most at home in her office, things like that. So,
and as a girl that loves antiquing, it is something that comes to mind anytime I'm looking at something, and I'm like,
I largely avoid antique stores now. I'm too superstitious.
Yeah, that's definitely a conversation I've had with friends and family members, and even with customers at the shop that I work part-time, because I work at a metaphysical shop. You know, because of course Vivi doesn't have enough hours in the day. Let's work part-time at a shop. But it's a metaphysical shop. You know, we have the crystals and everything, including antiques. And that's always a question that kind of comes up about, is this one haunted? And I'm like, we won't know until you take it home. I do fuck with the customers. I mean, maybe. But it might be a good ghost. You never know. Nothing that some sage can fix. So it's just one of those where that's why I loved your stories, was these objects, ultimately ghosts, form of people, need a home. And it's just one of those where these three witches are taking care of them in, you know, in the best way that they can, with what they know as they're discovering things like their own powers in book one, and things like that. So it's such a wonderful story. I can't wait to get my earbuds on the next one that's coming out. Because again, the title, I'm like, never been witched. I'm like, oh, that's a couple of innuendos there.
Yep.
Yeah. What made you want to write this series because it's very specific. You're in the lake in Michigan, you know.
Well, I just realized I was kind of saying like, oh no, I'm too smart to shop at an antique store. I bought a 96-year-old house. So that was like, it's like, oh, the hypocrisy.
You're living in one, love.
So my husband retired, and we were going to move somewhere. We decided we were going to move to Michigan because we love the snow. You don't get a lot of snow in Kentucky. You mostly get ice storms. So we're like, okay, you move up here. We found this beautiful 96-year-old home. And it's so quirky. And we realized like the first couple of nights we were sleeping here, like everything creaked constantly. It's like if we were more paranoid, like we would be absolutely convinced this house was haunted, just because there's always something shifting and moving. And it really just did put me in the mood to write a good haunted house story. And it really, I'm sitting in it right now, but it really does lend itself to the atmosphere of a haunted house. And I'm still finding things about the house like I didn't know. For instance, my husband, in the sexiest thing he has said to me in 30 years together, said, what if we took that upstairs closet and like put some bookshelves in there and made it into a library? And I'm like, oh my God, I've never wanted you more.
True story.
Yeah, true story. And so, you know, he's moving all the stuff in there to set up the bookshelves. And I open it up while he's at work. And there's this tiny door in the back of the closet. Oh. And I do not remember seeing this door. Like it has blocked itself from my memory. And so I'm texting him while he's in class and I'm like, hey, what's with the tiny door in the closet? And he's like, it's always been there. I'm like, au contraire, it has not always been there. I remember like the tiny door. He's like, well, open it. And I'm like, no, have we met? Like, I'm not opening that door and getting sucked into the alternate dimension full of demon squid. Like the door stays closed. And so I'm texting them all this nonsense. He's like, babe, I have a real job. Like I can't be doing this with you right now. And so I waited until he came home to open the tiny squid door because again, I've seen Hellraiser. I know how this ends. And it was just an empty little storage space. We're pretty sure because it was in an outside wall that it might have been like, because this house actually has servants' quarters. So we think that was the servant's staircase. And so we think that was where, like, if the butler or what have you was bringing milk or something upstairs, like that was like a cold box.
Okay.
But we don't have anything in there now because that feels wrong. So, but yeah, it's just one of those things where you're just constantly discovering new things about the house, particularly as we have renovated it. There was horsehair in the walls as insulation.
Okay. You used what you had back in the days?
Did. That was really horrifying, and I was worried about horse ghosts. Oh. So, yeah. It lent itself to storytelling.
Mm-hmm. So are we ever going to get that mysterious squid apparent dimension? No. Or one of your characters is a writer, and then there's like, what about? And they're like, nah, never mind.
My poor husband. He's like, babe, I have a real job. Mm-hmm. I have to wear pants to work. Please stop texting me this stuff.
Well, I can relate to that because my husband's also a teacher, and I work from home, and there's sometimes where I'm like, where's the thing? Or something else is happening, and he's like, honey, I can't talk right now. I have the kids.
I'm on a real schedule.
Right? I tell them that they're not allowed to be on the phone. So do I. And I'm like,
that
fine.
rule applies to me as well.
Right? Lead by example, which could be used for so many different things. But I'm like, fine, if the ghost gets me, whatever.
On your head.
Yeah. Well, as this house, the house that I'm in, I mean, it's Florida. And so you never know, with things, because between hurricanes and, swamp waters or whatever the case is, the houses that are around here. But mine was like in 1982. So vintage, and things like that.
I mean, at this point, yes.
Yes. I'm like, no, we're vintage people now as far as our age goes. Yeah. And the things you do find out as you're renovating, like my shower in the master bathroom didn't have a shower pan. So
that's not
that's not good. And things like that. And we have plans to continue to get new floors and stuff. So I'm excited. And my husband's like, are you excited to find like a doll in the floor? And I'm like, yeah. Something.
There could be treasure.
And it could be treasures, but he's like, it could be haunting. I'm like, and that's different in my life. How? I already have the ghost in the office. And he goes, I'm like, we'll talk about it later. So when I'm reading your stories, I'm like, these are like my friends. I legit totally understand this. Mm-hmm. And I would go on vacation for that island and just hang out with the girls and like, what's on the agenda today for all witchy things. But again, your ability to tell these stories and bring the readers and the listeners into it is just fantastic. And now, which your books have been in audio for a while, but now that audiobooks are getting significantly more popular, how has that been? Has your writings changed at all or a little bit based on the fact that it will be in audio, or you're like, nah, it's going to translate fine?
Well, what has changed for me in the last couple of years is I've been working in audio exclusive originals, which means that the book actually comes out in audio first. Yes. And then 6 months later, it comes out in print and ebook, which has been great for me. I've really enjoyed, this formatting. And it has changed the way I write in that I know it's going to be audio. So there are times where I'm writing it as if it's a radio play. There are dialogue tags as if, just the character's name, : the line. That's been really fun. I am more careful as my career has gone on, choosing, dialogue that's easier to say. I don't do tongue twisters, things like that. You just have to keep that kind of thing in mind. And you don't want to use the same word in a sentence 3 times.
True.
So, and I personally, one of my writing pet peeves is the word said. With dialogue, I will avoid that whenever I can, using alternates like murmured, muttered, whispered, yelled, whatever, just to avoid, because eventually your eye just starts catching on the word said.
Yeah.
And especially in the audio, like you hear said and it starts becoming like a lead weight in your ear. So if at all possible, I will avoid that. But as far as, writing projects go, this has been really fun for me. I get to work with Amanda Ronconi, who is absolutely amazing.
I love her.
She really just gets everything about my work, and the accent. You do know that her mom is from Louisville.
Yes, I did know that. Yeah.
So like that's why she gets the Kentucky voice.
Yes.
And I love that. And I think that's part of the reason we worked so well together from the first book. And she gets the cadence, she gets the humor, she gets the delivery. If she ever retires, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah, because she's been your steady narrator. I mean, and she's been the sole narrator for some of the books, and I love her. I mean, she's one of those that is equivalent of like if she narrates it, I listen to it, and
she's great for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, and not to say anything about, we absolutely adore the boys that we've let into our club, as we say it. Jonathan Davis did Mystic Bayou with her.
I love him.
Absolute great job, particularly his delivery of Zed, really makes me happy. And obviously Teddy Hamilton is doing a beautiful job for Starfall Point. But Amanda is always going to be my favorite.
Yeah, I even caught myself out. I did one of the videos for the Big Witch Energy one, and I I kind of caught myself afterwards, but I was like, fuck it. And it was one of those, and the amazing, the awesome Amanda Rinconi and Teddy Hamilton. Oh. And it wasn't, it meant anything negative for Teddy, but in, I'm just going to say it, in romance, the men, which do significantly less of the work as far as word count and even some of the production side, gets all the love and the majority of the love from the listeners. And I'm like, it's Amanda fucking Rinconi, she's queen, and the same thing as some of the other ladies that are out there. And so I'm all for supporting the ladies and things like that, but she does such a phenomenal job that beautiful. And again, it wasn't a diss or anything on Teddy, because I love and adore the man and he's great too. But Amanda is, the books from the femme POV too. So it's just one of those, we're going to get more of her and her delivery on things and her snark and her sarcasm, and your writing is just like almost like the two of you combined from that perspective. And she's been with you since day one as far as your audio stuff goes. So I'm just floored that when this series came out, and I'm like, yes, Amanda's there. Oh, cool, Teddy.
And Teddy does a great job with Mina in particular. Yeah. His voicing of a teenage girl is so effective and funny. And I really enjoy him. But I mean, Amanda and I have worked together for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, the same thing, like you said, with, Jonathan Davis. I actually did not this. He became in front of me. I hate the word discovered, because it's almost like I discovered the island. No. He's been around for a while. He came new to me with your series. And I was like, who is this voice? Who is this man? Oh my goodness, what else has he done? And so it's just one of those things that when you have one narrative that you love, like Amanda, and she co-narrates with somebody, you're like, oh, okay, cool. But she's one that can hold her own and needs no man. And she's great. And I do love her accent work. And yeah, it's funny too, because it's like, when you said Louisville, and I'm like, I still have that postcard when there was an event there that's like the different pronunciations of Louisville.
Kentuckians take that so personally.
Yes, they do. Yeah, like y'all do.
Louisville, they'll just say, get out.
Yeah. Which is the postcard that I have that has the pronunciations of like 15 different ways. But I mean, again, your stuff is always fantastic, and Amanda knocks it out of the park. Do you know who the narrator for that, the proposal to die for will be? Okay. Next.
Once we stop recording, I'll talk to you.
Okay, yeah. All right, so we'll back up a little bit. Yep. So no, it's okay. Good question. So from the narrator's perspective, I mean, I know you love and adore Amanda, and you've loved on the guys. Do you have a choice in the narrators?
For the males, no. They bring someone forward, and the people they suggest are always fantastic. But I mean, for that matter, anytime we can get Amanda, we get Amanda.
Okay, so. Fair enough. Yeah, it's interesting too. A lot of times, listeners don't know that there's some instances where the author has absolutely no say. And, when it's announced who the narrators are, it's a surprise to them too. And others are like, oh no, I decide.
No, I think that if there was a real problem, like, oh, I don't think that this is hitting my ear right. Like, I think I could say something, but I've never had that experience. I think they've really chosen some really excellent people for me. And Amanda, the first book, Audible sent me a sample, and they're like, what do you think of this? And I said, this is perfect. And that was the universe handing me a gift wrapped Amanda, which was awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And you guys do have an interview on the Audible website, which is on your landing page there, that I'll make sure to link, because I think this was the first time you guys also met in person, I think from what I remember. Years. Yeah.
And I didn't feel comfortable emailing her for the first couple of books that we worked together, because I didn't think I had the right to.
Sometimes it happens with production companies, and that's okay. There's a reason behind it, whether it's agreed upon or not. But it's you guys have such a great dynamic, and I love the fact that you guys were able to do that interview. I'm hoping one day to be at an event where the two of you go together.
That would be
sign at a table. That would be fun. I would just sit there and watch y'all interact with people.
Oh, people are going to realize I do not sound as good as Amanda does. So No one wants to listen to 10 hours of this.
But we do love, when we get to meet in person with our, our favorite authors. And now that the narrators are also attending events and things like that. I mean, I remember the first time I met you in person at one of these events, and I was like, oh, Molly. That was so much fun. Yeah. I still have some of the Tic Tacs.
Oh, the
minion ones. Yeah. Her swag it still is the bomb. Because you always had some cool stuff. And then with this one, you had that tea bag that looked like a witch's hat. I mean, so your swag continues to be completely on point.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I do have that with my Molly books, and it's been years, and my husband's like, "You're gonna hold on to that?"
Don't eat those Tic Tacs.
And I'm not eating. No.
Those are no longer potable.
No, they're not. No. I think I ended up throwing out the candy, but keeping the box. So
that was a good plan.
But yeah, so we're gonna go a little bit more on the personal side here. She just gave me a look like, wait a minute.
It's a trap. I knew
it. No, please. Your mom would be at my house so fast.
She would. She might not get there very fast. But
right. She'll get on her broom. She has magical powers.
You've met her.
I know. I've met her. I love her mom. In fact, it's one of those things where it became so much, and that's one of the things where I used to, before the pandemic, going to hang out with you at conferences. Your mom would come too, and I was like, I get to hang out with Molly's mom.
It was one of those things where I'm a third generation romance reader. She would steal her mom's books, the romance books, and read them when she wasn't supposed to, and then I would steal my mom's romance books and read them the way I wasn't supposed to. So. When I became a romance author, it kind of felt inevitable. And then, of course, she's going to come with me as my assistant to these conferences, not because she did want to support me, but also she wanted to meet all of the authors. Yes. So it was a lot of fun back in the pandemic days.
It was, yeah. And I love her. And, my kid loves her. He asked about her all the time. They were at a conference one time, and your mom kind of picked up that, I think he was getting irritated because I was hovering, or there was an author that he wanted to go look, and I was in line for one of mine. And she's like, come on, sweetheart, we'll go together. And he disappeared. Yeah. And I was fine with it because he was with your mom. So I'm like, perfect. It's perfect. Not a problem.
When people meet her, it makes sense. Like, they're like, oh, this is why she is the way she is. Like, okay. Yeah. And then people meet my kids and they're like, oh yeah. All right.
Mm-hmm. And why. But it's fantastic. It's like, oh, this is how it should be. If we had more like this, the world would be better.
I like to think so, but I'm sure there are detractors. So,
like with anything, a little bit, yeah, but it's fine. It still would be better. But more on a personal level now. So I have some fun questions for you. Okay. So if you're ready, all right. So when you're not working, what do you do for fun?
Trying to think of when I'm not working.
I know.
I read a lot. I do read. I used to do a lot of counted cross stitch. My friend Tears of Price actually just had a free cross stitch pattern of her latest book in Want of a Suspect. Like when you pre-order it, you can get the cross stitch pattern, and I'm so excited for that. Like I might actually try that. I bake, not always well. Sometimes it goes terribly, terribly wrong. But still, it's usually chocolate, so it works out.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of free time because I do write 3 or 4 projects a year. So it could be an indication of a problem. So
not on my end, but we get the stories, but from your end, yes, a little bit of downtime is important. So that's good. Mm-hmm. What song do you have to sing along to no matter where it's playing when you hear it?
Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. And much to the embarrassment and horror of my children. Because I really go to town on the Mamma Mias. So.
Oh, yeah. See, we got to do that at a conference next time. Just start blasting it and see what happens.
I'll do it.
I know. Yeah. So what's your favorite word? Not your favorite curse word, because that's the second part of that question. So your favorite word.
God. Well, I have a favorite cuss word.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't know if I have words I don't like using because I have such difficulties spelling them, like bureau. Disillusionment, it's for some reason comes to mind. Disillusionment.
Okay. That's a good one.
And obviously my favorite cuss word is the F word. So.
Yeah. And she's like, the F word. I'm like, girl.
I know this is still a work function.
I know, so proper.
If I do it by accident, that's one thing.
Yes.
If it's premeditated, that's not great.
Yeah, I know. That's what they say. Premeditation is never good. Plus, evidence.
Always an issue.
Yes.
And then there's cover up.
Yeah. Yes. So the next part is some part of the homework that I gave you. So let's see if you did it or not. The two truths and a lie.
Yes.
All right. It's always a 50-50 chance with my authors and my narrators. You never know, but they've been good. So in this case, it's a fun game of two truths and a lie where you tell us 3 things about yourself and we have to figure out which one's a lie. And I do like to say we because I'm really hoping the listeners are playing along. And I'm not speaking to the void. But yeah, so whenever you're ready, if you want to tell us your 3 things, and then we'll try to figure out which one's a lie.
So my favorite food is salmon. My dad told me I would never use a college supernatural folklore class in real life. Or I was stung by a jellyfish 15 minutes into my real first adult vacation.
Wow. Okay. Those are good. Oh my goodness. Okay, which one's the lie? Is the lie that your dad said that you weren't going to be able to use any of that?
No, he said that to my face.
Oh, okay. Well, so it's amazing what you don't know when you don't know, right?
Right. So my junior year, my college had a really excellent folklore program. And I took urban folklore and all these like really awesome like regional folklore classes. But the one that I really wanted to take was supernatural folklore. And my dad was looking at my schedule for that year. And he's like, you will never use supernatural folklore in real life. And I'm a stubborn and sometimes spiteful person. And that set off my watch me response. So now I use it literally every day. Yeah. There are times where I like to remind him of that because that is the Harper in me. So yeah.
I mean, I can imagine having that conversation and then fast forward when you did you run to your dad once it was the first time that you used it and you're like, booyah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the first book contract, was signed, and my dad was, to be fair, he has been so super supportive, if not really confused by my career, because I am the first writer in the family to be published. I'm from a family of like teachers and nurses and, construction engineering types. They don't really understand, what
creative
goes on
side of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, to his credit, he has been super, super supportive. But when the first contract came through, I was like, hey, dad, guess what I used to get this book published? He was like, yeah, I know. Okay. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's always great. Parents are always looking out for us. And I know sometimes when I took some of my classes, my mom was like, how is this going to be good for you in the future? And I'm like, I don't know. How is that quadratic equation we were forced to learn and memorize in algebra helping me right now?
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. I have yet to use it.
Never.
Never. Not once. All right. Well, see, with your luck, I want to say that the jellyfish is a true story too.
It is. So it was the first like grown-up vacation my husband and I had ever taken. We had gone to the Bahamas, and like the first thing they let us do was like drop your bags, walk into the ocean, like, we'll take care of you, stuff for you. And so I walk in and I feel a stinging sensation or just wrapped around my arm. And I'm like, oh, that feels like a wasp sting, but like dozens of them. And I look down and there is a tentacle like wrapped around my arm. And so no, it was just a series of welts, but that was the first in a series of misadventures I had on that vacation, including walking into a wrought iron pineapple and like getting one of the fronds stuck in my leg. And my husband opened a bottle of champagne and he's like, hey, go around the corner, like, so the cork doesn't fly out. And it hit the ceiling, it hit me. So, yeah.
Oh, poor
like it ricocheted. Like I caught a stray, basically.
And he was trying. He was like,
he was trying so hard to be considerate, but he forgot the disaster that he had married. So yeah.
Oh goodness.
I hate salmon. That was the lie. I don't like seafood at all. So
Me neither. It just
tastes dead to me in a way that other meat does not. It's absolutely bizarre. I know it's good for me. I just can't eat it. So
no, I am not a seafood girl at all, but I can cook it for other people just fine. And I remember making a comment in front of my mom years ago about how I don't like seafood. I've never eaten it, and she starts laughing. I'm like, why are you laughing, woman? And she's like, you used to eat that all the time. I'm like, you never made us fish. She goes, no, you just thought they were chicken nuggets.
She lied. Your whole childhood.
Yes, she was giving us like tilapia, and I'm like, oh, mother, what else?
Betrayal. It's so real.
It is. She's like, I had to get you to eat it somehow. It was healthy for you. And I'm like, what else have you done? Like, what else is a lie?
What about the Easter Bunny? No. Oh, man.
Oh,
so yes, that's my 2 truths and a lie.
Okay.
The most benign one was a lie. I'm so sorry.
No, though again, it's in true Molly Harper's themes, right? Nothing is ever what it seems, and it could happen. Yeah, it probably will.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like I have been much more careful when I take vacations now. I always have a first aid kit the size of a car battery.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, as someone that grew up in Florida and, oceans are like really literally there, we knew about looking where we were going as we're entering the water. You were told to just waltz right in there and not even told about the jellyfish. I mean, like there's times we don't even go into the water because it's like jellyfish season. So, that's not fun.
Yeah, I got over it. It was fine. It didn't ruin the vacation or anything, but it was like, I've only been here like...
And so it begins.
You just see this mild look of panic just over my husband's face, like, oh no, what have I done?
But that's adorable. He's like, go around the corner so it doesn't hit you. And then, of course, your luck. Oh gosh.
Yeah. I won't talk about where it hit me.
Oh. No, that's another episode for when you come back later. Yeah.
No, the truth will be revealed.
Yes. All right. Well, that was fun. All right. Let's see what else we got. The other part of the question of the homework was guilty pleasures. Now, we tend to think when we hear or we're asked like, what are your guilty pleasures? People automatically go for like the red room and like whips and chains and sex and stuff. I'm like, no. I'm talking about like having ice cream for dinner.
DoorDash. No.
Yeah.
Too far.
Yeah. All right. So what are some of your guilty pleasures?
I really like listening to those Reddit podcasts where they read the stories out loud and talk about their responses to the situations. Like it's a really gossipy conversation with friends.
Yes.
And so I like that, and true crime podcasts got me through the pandemic. And now I just listen to them as I'm driving around and like I'll just all of a sudden bust out giggling. And one of my kids will say, I really hope that that's the Reddit podcast and not the true crime podcast, because otherwise that is very sinister. So
it's for a story, I promise.
Yeah. Oh, we were renovating the bathroom over the summer, and I had all these books on poisons stacked up on my couch. Because it's for the Proposal to Die For story. And I realized that the contractors had been walking past these stacks of poison books. And one of them mentions, because I have all like my books are framed, like the covers are framed on the walls. And they're like, so are you Molly Harper? And I said, yeah, I'm an author. I write romance novels. And they're like, oh, okay. And that makes sense. And then I realized like I had made jokes to my husband about murder and poisonings all week. I had all these books on poisons sitting around the house. They probably thought he was in terrible, terrible danger.
So, like, sir, blink twice if you're safe.
Like, are you safe? Are you okay? Oh no.
Yeah,
really bad. It's like, so I switched the conversation to sea witches.
Yeah.
Like, not,
Well,
I can't threaten you with that.
Yeah, I will bust out with, I will put you in a jar. And for those that know what that means, and for those that don't, that just from a witchy perspective, put the nastiest things in a jar with the name of the person and then put them in the freezer. Or somewhere else. Like, don't make me put you in a jar. And they're like,
Just draw that back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they start putting things away. Oh my goodness. See, but I've seen those too on social media, is am I the asshole?
Yeah.
And they go into the story and I'm like, no, you're not. Or, oh yeah, you are. Oh, those are funny.
And what's always hilarious are the ones where they really are, obviously, and they don't get it.
No.
And so and again, I spend most of my time alone in the house. So having that kind of gossipy conversation is really interesting, and having that kind of bouncing around me is there's energy there, which I enjoy.
Absolutely.
And I'll text my daughter, so she's away at college now.
Oh,
and
my
I'll text
God.
her, oh my God, you won't believe this one. And she's like, I'm in class. I'm like, call me after. So
my goodness, she's in college already.
She's a junior in college.
Oh my God. When did that happen? She was just a little fledgling wanting to write.
But she has fully come into her power and she is terrifying. So
I love that. I love that about her. My God, time goes by too quickly, and
it does. Yeah, and she says she's like the moonshine of the generation. Her sarcasm has been distilled over many lifetimes. I'm like, yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah. The sarcasm in this family. Oh God. It's yeah, but it's so rich. It's so good. Yes. My God, I could keep talking to you for hours, but I know you have work to do and now sirens to write about and all this other fun stuff. So before we go, can you tell us what you're currently working on that you can share, and then what's coming up next?
I actually yesterday just got the revisions for the first book in the Moonshadow Cove series approved yesterday. So today I'm starting work on Moonshadow Cove Book 2. And it is a spinoff series to the Starfall Point books. It is about what is happening on the other side of the Starfall Point Island and witches that are left dealing with the sort of aftermath and ghostly pollution that the Shadow House Coven does not realize is happening. And they are sea-based witches. And so that has been a lot of fun to kind of put that oceanic spin on what I've been doing so far.
Nice. And as a Pisces, I approve.
I'm a Leo, and yet I am always drawn to all things beachy. So this has been really nice.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then your other book that you were telling us about is also coming out soon.
A Proposal to Die For is coming out in April of 2025.
Yes. And it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah. And I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see how you do all those weaves, ins and outs, and try to figure out the whodunits. And I know with your books, I never figure it out first. Usually with others, I
always think I'm always afraid that I can communicate it way too early, because I'm always the one that 5 minutes into the Law and Order episode will guess the killer, and
me too.
My family just turns it off. So
yeah, I could tell.
Shows.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. So that's maybe also why I don't read a whole lot of mysteries and thrillers, because I'm like, I probably will. But TV shows are a little different, because I can see. For me, it's also the journey. So even if I figured it out, I'm like, I'll go, well, how did he do it? Or how did they do it? But with your stuff too, because you sometimes have some of those mysteries, like, the Mystic Bayou, and I'm like, could be this. Oh no, maybe that. Oh no. But I am so excited for all the good stuff that is coming down our way from you. So thank you for that. I love your stories. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me today. It's been so much fun.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I can't believe I beat you at 2 truths and a lie. So.
Yeah. That was overthinking it. So if you're not following Molly on their socials, I'm going to be including all those links so you guys don't have to go hunting for them over at this episode's landing page over at Viviana Enchantress of Books. And until next time, happy listenings.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobookloving. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.